This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for November 12th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Hump Day to everyone out there. All right, let's start with the Eagles and kind of put a bow here on the Packers game. I was able to watch some interviews, rewatched a good chunk of the game. And I guess my first takeaway is everybody out there that's saying this game was boring must not really have been watching the game. To me, this was old school football. This was the kind of football I grew up watching. And for a 10-7 game, it was certainly entertaining. I feel like the Thursday night football game between the Raiders and the Broncos was also a 10-7 game. Definitely not entertaining. That was boring. But this, there weren't a lot of mistakes. It was just two teams playing a chess match that counter this, counter that, and I was thoroughly entertained. I thought it was good. I heard somebody compare it to the Eagles-Chiefs game. Absolutely. I mean, this was a good win for the Eagles. Hostile environment, a team coming off a loss, needing the win, and they went out there and found a way to do it. And I think that's a skill that you cannot teach. That's just something that a few years ago in 2023, that team did not have. So whether it's adversity or whatever, that was a hell of a game. Shout out to Scott from Ben Salem, who called and texted the Back to the Future voice and text line. Said it before as soon as the game ended the other day. Loved it. It was a great game. And it brought up an interesting point that I kind of wanted to go into that sort of supports where I was going with this team just finds ways to win. So this Eagles team is not dominant, and they don't necessarily need to be. They win. They've won a Super Bowl. They've gotten the job done. They're not dominant. They're dominant at points, but they're not dominant. And he said you can go back to the 2000s if you want a dominant team, but how did that work out for the Eagles? Couldn't agree more. Shout out and thank you, Scott, for reaching out to the Back to the Future voice and text line. But man, what a game. It was a hell of a game. I mean, I feel like we love defense in Philly, and that was a great defensive. I mean, the defensive line was outstanding. And if that's the kind of play we're going to get out of the defensive line, look out. Look out. This defense has the potential to possibly be better than last year. But it does bring up something I wanted to talk about before we get into some of the other news and notes from yesterday. I'm hearing a lot of people, and I've talked about the list before, but I saw that our old pal, Elliott Shores Park, was talking when he was out there in Green Bay about how Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts could be the top, or I don't think he said could. I think he said they're a top 5 quarterback coach tandem of all time. I think it's a little aggressive to do that now. But the point I want to make is, why must we quantify everything with lists, with that saying, oh, it was a 10-7 game, it wasn't pretty? Why can't we just sit back and look at the big picture and realize we are in the golden age of Eagles football? There has not been, since Nick Sirianni took over, a 5-year stretch of sustained success the way that Nick Sirianni does or has brought to this team. The closest that I could find would maybe be the 1945 through 1949 5-year stretch where they won 2 championships and got to another one. But the NFL was different then. I don't think I know anybody now. Maybe I do. I take that back. But nobody's old that I know is old enough to remember that. I might have some people in my family who were born, they just weren't old enough to remember. But why must we quantify? Why can't we just enjoy and appreciate what we have? I feel we're so, well, this looks like this looks like that. At the end of the day, and Jalen has said it, stats don't matter. It doesn't matter how it looks. All this team does is win. 4 straight years, the Eagles have been 7-2. 4 straight years. Think about that. They've made the playoffs 4 straight years. Likely going to be a 5th straight year. So why can't we just appreciate? Why do we got to quantify? Why do we got to say this one's this, or Jalen's not this, or they can't win without that? And they have. They have. I just don't get the needing or the need to quantify everything and make it this. Just enjoy it. This is the best stretch of Eagles football ever. Ever. And as Scott said, if you want to go back to the Andy Reid Donovan days, go ahead. I'll stay here. I have a Super Bowl championship within this little window here. And if you want to extend it back even further to 2017 and go like a 10-year window, I have 2. So go ahead. Try to quantify it. Try to compare and figure out where Jalen ranks on a list. Try to figure out if Sirianni and Hurts are here, blah, blah. Go ahead. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay here and just enjoy it because, ladies and gentlemen, this is hands down the best 5-year stretch of Eagles football. And if you want to make an argument and you were alive for that, I will certainly hear you out. The 45 through 49 era. But again, I'm going to stay right here. So just enjoy it. Enjoy a 10-7 game that was a slugfest. And I mean, and truthfully, if you look at that game, I rewatched highlights and good chunks of that game yesterday. The Eagles dominated. That defense dominated. Sure, the Packers defense certainly came to play, but the Eagles dominated that game. That touchdown was late, and for whatever reason, they had a mental lapse for a drive, but the Eagles should have shut them out. They dominated. So sit back and enjoy the ride. All right. Couple things, though, about that game. The last play where they threw the 4th down pass, there's starting to be rumblings that maybe Jalen and AJ sort of ad-libbed that and went rogue, I think is what they were calling. You can see it, like, why pass that? Like, Nick Sirianni was saying, why pass that? But I guess the bottom line is, why were you not punting there? And I think there's a little bit of merit if you start connecting the dots and playing detective here. Nick Sirianni, in his post-game press conference, talked about kicking a field goal. That was not a field goal spot anyway. So why were you not in punt formation unless you were trying to draw them off? And if you were trying to draw them off, okay, maybe they saw something, but just something's just, the math ain't mathing. But they got away with it. They need to be better with that, especially because they were conservative the entire game. And then you get aggressive with like 30 seconds left and give the Packers a chance to tie it. I don't know. I did see a stat, though, that the Eagles have the best red zone offense in the league, but they also have the highest 3-and-out percentage. So that's, to me, the very definition of inconsistent, but it goes to show when they have opportunities, they're able to take advantage of it. And then the other thing is, last year coming out of the bye, the Eagles looked sluggish. That was the Cleveland game. That was when we left that game. I remember walking out of that stadium feeling it, even though we won, feeling we lost. That was when Nick was yelling at the fans. And then all of a sudden they got it together and turned it around after that. So I don't want to necessarily compare because each year is different, but we were feeling a lot worse at this point, the game after the bye, than what we are right now. So again, just enjoy it. The other news yesterday, Jair Alexander is stepping away, contemplating retirement to focus on his physical and mental well-being. While it definitely is something that could potentially hurt the Eagles from an on-field thing, go do you, Jair. I mean, one, take care of yourself first. We talked a lot yesterday about mental health awareness and just reaching out. Kudos to him for having the wherewithal to realize, I need to get my mind right. And two, wish you the best, man. Like I said, it takes courage to do that. There's going to be a lot of people, I'm sure, that are out there yelling and screaming and raising a fuss. But at the end of the day, man, it's a game. You got to take care of yourself. I encourage my teachers all the time. I'm like, take a mental health day. And they always feel bad. But I'm like, you know what? No. Because to me, my teachers are not good to me or the students if they're not feeling it. So take it. Jair is not going to be any good to this team if he's not right mentally. So go do you. And if you retire, congrats on a great career, but clear things up and focus on your mental state there. All right. Last little bow on this game. You voted Devontae Smith. 56% of you said Devontae is the GOAT of the game. Jalen Phillips was next with 33%. So shout out to everybody who reached out either through the Back to the Future voice and text line or my social media. Appreciate it. We'll do it again next week when the Eagles take on the Lions. And the Eagles, as of this morning on DraftKings, they were 2.5-point favorites. So looking forward to going down to that game Sunday night. All right, Sixers with an exciting game. Once again, no Joe, who was being evaluated for knee soreness. Not the knee he had surgery on. It's his right knee, the other one. So not sure if that is a byproduct of overcompensating or what. So we'll continue to monitor that. But a 102-100 win over the Celtics. And this team fights, man. They were up 10 at halftime, had a crappy third quarter, fought back. Kelly Oubre with the tip in with like 4 seconds left. They were able to hold off, and the Celtics didn't get their last shot off. But this team is fun. This team is fun. Zero expectations right now, but they are fun. They're entertaining to watch. Justin Edwards was the star with 22 points. Tyrese had 21. And then Andre Drummond, filling in for Joe, had 14 points, 13 rebounds. They have the kudos to Daryl Morey here. And Daryl Morey gets a lot of heat in this city, but he's put together the right pieces, and they're in the middle of a rebuild while still trying to retool the current roster. And he's got the right pieces in there, it seems like. Got guys like Justin Edwards, like I said, Kelly Oubre. I love Kelly Oubre. Definitely one of my favorite players. But when you got Andre Drummond coming off, filling in for Joe, getting 14 and 13, is that Joe's production? No. But I got to give a shout out here to Daryl Morey, who kind of came into an absolute mess and has really done a good job, I think, navigating and cleaning up while still keeping the Sixers competitive. So shout out to the Sixers. Shout out to Daryl Morey. I'll take it. And then it was interesting. If you watched last night, it was the big thing, NBA on NBC. Good to see Marv Albert make an appearance. But Reggie Miller told a story, which I'm going to have to, this might be a Fridays with AI thing. Well, apparently the Sixers told him and promised him that he was going to be drafted number 6 when the Sixers picked number 16 in the 87 draft, I believe it was. And then they were going to team him with Charles Barkley, and it was going to be Reggie Miller and Charles Barkley. Well, the Pacers, who didn't really meet with Reggie Miller, swooped in and took him number 11 overall. It's kind of shocking because I guess he put on a Sixers jersey and he was like, "What are you doing?" Or Mike Tirico was like, "What are you doing?" And he told the story, which never heard that story. I thought it was interesting and it very intriguing. What if in Philly sports? What if they had Reggie Miller and teamed him with Charles Barkley? I think we might be Sixers history may have turned out different. Instead, the Sixers ended up with Chris Welp. Well, yep, exactly. All right, Flyers back in action tonight at the X versus the Oilers. Looking to keep their momentum rolling, and it'd be interesting to see how the Mishkov Couturier dynamic, after I'm sure they've had some time to talk it out and fix it. So looking forward to the Flyers tonight. Yesterday's trivia question, we talked about the 72-73 Sixers, and I said they had the lowest amount of wins ever in NBA history until a team came along in 2011-2012. That team was the Charlotte Bobcats. Now, there's a little bit of an asterisk next to this because the Charlotte Bobcats won 7 games during that season, but due to the lockout, it was only a 66-game season. So technically, you can maybe out of the last 18 games or 16 games, they would have maybe had 10 wins or more. But due to the winning percentage, they are the worst team in NBA history, taking the Sixers off the hook. But the Sixers still have the worst 82-game win total in NBA history. But hey, we're not the worst. All right, some quick housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo on all platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott, and let's make a push here for the end of the year. I've seen a couple people doing this on different podcasts and different platforms. Let's make a push here. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, even if you're listening on Spotify, go to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott, hit the subscribe button. Trying to get my subscriptions up to over 200. Lofty goal of 225 for, and again, I know some people are like, oh, only that. Listen, man, I work full time. This is kind of like a hobby, but let's get those subscriptions up to 225 and spread the word. Tell everybody to, and continue to leave the comments. More and more comments are coming in. I do my best to answer every single one, negative and positive, but subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do me a solid. I really appreciate it, and then continue to spread the word. And then don't forget, starting Monday, kicking off the 3rd annual gift and food drive benefiting the Matty Ann Dixon Community Cupboard. Went with a new site this year, Give Butter. So it's more in line for fundraisers of this nature. So I'll start sharing that link on Monday. But looking to blow away what we were able to donate last year. We blew away what we did the year before. So I love seeing this thing grow. So stay tuned for details on that coming on Monday. Want to show off your Philly pride without saying a word? Philly Goat has you covered. From tees, hoodies, shoes, and hats, their gear screams Philly louder than an Eagles fan at the vet. Whether you're tailgating in South Philly or trying to flex down the Jersey Shore, do it in style. Hit up phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery and get 10% off your order. Philly Goat, because being Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. Go Birds! All right, it is Wednesday, so that means it's time for What If Wednesday, brought to you by Lotwin. Go to lotwin.com to get your 3D custom hype chains. These things are awesome. They'll work with you, design them exactly how you want. Great for youth sports, bachelor parties. Makes good Christmas presents, too. We are getting into the holiday season, so go to lotwin.com. Use the promo code TCCPOD to take 10% off of your order. All right, so for What If Wednesday, yesterday was the anniversary of Pelle Lindburgh's death. We talked about Monday. The car accident was officially pronounced dead on this day, yesterday. But it's one of the bigger what ifs and kind of just unknowns in Flyer history. What if he did not die? What if he didn't get into the car accident? What if he called a cab or whatever? And it's an interesting take because the Flyers, from a goaltending perspective, really have still never recovered from Pelle Lindburgh's death so many years ago. But I mean, he was 26, coming off a Vezina Trophy season. Do they win it in 87? I mean, Ron Hextall was outstanding specifically in that Stanley Cup playoff run. But does having Pelle Lindburgh change that? I mean, he was on an all-star trajectory at the time. Do they go back in 1986? That team in 1986 was exhausted from the Stanley Cup run and then having to deal with the death of their goalie. They got booted in the first round. Do they make a run in 86? And then moving forward, are there other runs? You have to think that, I mean, all due respect to Ron Hextall, He was a very inconsistent goalie, probably still one of the top goalies in Flyers history. But I mean, you had a guy that was a Vezina Trophy winner, and maybe Ron Hextall learns under him. Now, Ron played a different style. Ron did win a Vezina himself, but maybe you go Pelle to Hextall, or maybe Hextall can be traded for pieces that help the Flyers continue to make runs. So there's so many ways to go, but obviously a sad day that Pelle Lindburgh passed away. But man, what could have been for those Flyers teams? It was almost like they had the lull in the early 80s and they were coming back, and it just seems like everything it was just different after that. And they're still kind of searching for that consistency at goalie. But what are your thoughts? What if Pelle Lindburgh was able to live and continue to play for the Flyers? How would it have changed the Flyers in the late 80s, early 90s? Because we know they went into the tank until the drafting or the trade for Eric Lindros. But hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off of your chest. But that is What If Wednesday, brought to you by Lotwin. Go to lotwin.com for your 3D custom hype chains and use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off of your order. But that does lead to today's trivia question. How many Vezina trophies have the Flyers won in their history? The Discord channel is the first link in the chat, or you can hit me up on any of the socials as well as the Back to the Future voice and text line. All right, November 12th. Today is going to be an Eagles Day. And first, we're going to go back to 1979, and it was Eagles-Cowboys on Monday Night Football down in Dallas. A huge NFC East matchup for the standings. For the Eagles, Ron Jaworski threw 2 touchdown passes to Howard Carmichael. Wilbert Montgomery had 127 yards as a touchdown as the defense forced 3 turnovers, sacked Roger Staubach 5 times. Tony Franklin, the old barefoot kicker, kicked a 59-yarder to set an Eagles record for longest field goal in team history as the Eagles beat the Cowboys 31-21 down in Big D. They moved to 7-4, 1 game behind the Cowboys in the NFC East. And a little quick side note, that field goal by Tony Franklin remained the longest in Eagles history all the way until Jake Elliott's in 2017. So Eagles beat the Cowboys on Monday Night Football on this day in 1979 in a huge NFC East matchup. Fast forward 11 years later to 1990, and one of my all-time favorite games in history, it was the body bag game. Another NFC East matchup on Monday Night Football. This time it was Washington. Eagles win it 28-14 at the Vet. 6 Washington players got hurt, both quarterbacks, 4 others. Rookie running back and future Philadelphia Eagle Brian Mitchell ended up finishing the day at quarterback for Washington. The body bag game, I forget who called it the body bag game, whether it just kind of happened on the broadcast or it was something that happened afterwards. But one of the things of Eagles lore, the body bag game, Heath Sherman had 2 receiving touchdowns, one from Randall Cunningham and one from Keith Byers. But it was all about the defense, obviously putting a hurting on Washington that day, forcing 3 turnovers, 4 sacks, and not 1, but 2 defensive touchdowns. William Frizzell with an interception return, and newly inducted Philadelphia Sports Hall of Famer Clyde Simmons with a fumble return for a touchdown as the Eagles beat Washington 28-14 at the Vet in the body bag game, where just Washington was losing players left and right. I remember watching this game as a kid in my room when I should have been in bed, but I stayed up for it, and it was awesome. And then finally, go back to the year 2000. The Eagles traveled to Pittsburgh. They were down 10 with 3 minutes left when Brian Mitchell caught a touchdown pass. The aforementioned Brian Mitchell caught a touchdown pass The Eagles go to kick an onside kick, touch it before the 10 yards, and the way the rules were back then, I still don't understand how this was even allowed. They got to re-kick it. So, of course, you give David Akers a chance to re-kick an onside kick. He does. Eagles recover it, drive down. Akers kicks game-time field goal. Eagles win the toss, go on in overtime to kick the field goal to win 23-20 out in Pittsburgh in overtime. It was a very sloppy game, a game the Eagles were very lucky to win, but down 10 with 3 minutes left, the Eagles pull off the improbable comeback against Pittsburgh out in Pittsburgh, 23-20 in overtime to seal the win. Helped propel that team that year to an 11-5 record and a wild card berth and a wild card win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then finally today, celebrating the first 25 years of the century, we're going to go back to the sports page. And this was the daily news coverage from 2001. We talked about the Eagles game 2001, but on this day, Monday, November 12th, 2001, here's what they were talking about in the Philadelphia Daily News. Obviously, it was coverage of the Eagles' 48-17 win over the Vikings. Lots of talk about the showdown and how McNabb was the better player between he and Dante Culpepper, the two best quarterbacks, both linked in that 1999 draft. The Eagles were sitting at 5-3 and in first place at the time in the NFC East. John LeClair was working to break out of a slump. Looked like he was finally about to turn the corner. Matt Geiger for the Sixers was contemplating retirement due to just lingering injuries and just not being able to get fully healthy. Everybody remembers Geiger was the reason why Allen Iverson was not traded, because he would not waive his no trade clause. Speaking of AI, he returned to the lineup coming back from elbow surgery. Struggled, but it was good to have Iverson back. Michael Jordan was still playing, but had a rough day, shot 5 for 26 as the Wizards lose for the fourth straight game. And a quick stat that I saw in there, which I thought was amazing, it was Michael Jordan's first 4-game losing streak in 11 and a half years. Let that sink in. That goes back to way before the Bulls were doing dynasties. So Michael Jordan, kids, for everybody keeping score out there, he was pretty damn good. Brian Westbrook, while playing for Villanova, had scored 5 touchdowns in a game earlier that weekend. There was coverage of that in the Daily News. Tubby Raymond from the University of Delaware got his 300th win over the weekend. And Mark McGwire said he was tired and was going to retire from Major League Baseball. So that's what was going on in the sports page on this day in 2001. We'll be back tomorrow with another one. On this day in 2000, Eagles beat the Steelers 23-20 out in Pittsburgh in overtime, an improbable comeback coming down from 10 down with 3 minutes left. 1990, the body bag game when the Eagles just basically hurt the entire Washington team, 28-14 on Monday Night Football. And then 1979, Eagles with a 31-21 win over the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Ron Jaworski and Harold Carmichael and Wilbur Montgomery all led the way, with Tony Franklin setting the Eagles team record for longest field goal that would stand until 2017 when Jake Elliott broke it. Don't forget about the trivia question. We'll have more on the Eagles as we start looking ahead to the Lions. We'll update you on the Flyers as they take on the Oilers tonight down at the X. If we hear anything about Joe or anything Phillies hot stove, it did appear as though there might have been a goodbye message from Harrison Bader posted. Lots of speculation and talk about the meaning behind that. I read it. To me, it certainly looked like he was like, thanks. I'll be signing elsewhere next year. So we'll see how that plays out. But not a ton of rumors, but the general manager meetings are happening. If not this week, they're next week. So we should maybe start seeing some trades or something. Give us something, Dave. Something. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 12th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a hump day. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.